The Lexus NX sees minimal updates for the 2025 model year. This color is new, this copper crest metallic. It's sort of a rose gold. It's pretty bold. I'm still not fully sold, truth be told. Feel free to keep that going down in the comments. There is a macadamia interior, so you can tell people you're nuts. 2 USB-Cs have been added to the front console, and the intuitive park assist, the rear power liftgate, and rain sensing wipers are now standard. Powertrains remain steady for 2025, so there's a naturally aspirated engine, a turbocharged one, a hybrid, and a plug-in hybrid. This NX 350 F Sport handling houses the 2.4-liter turbocharged four-cylinder. It makes 275 horsepower, 317 pound-feet of torque. It is mated to an 8-speed automatic transmission exclusively, and all-wheel drive is your only drivetrain option when you get this 350. Fuel economy is rated right around 24 combined for city and highway mixed. I'm getting a little bit lower than that on this sort of cold winter week here in New England though. So maybe not the most fuel efficient of the small luxury crossovers out there, but if you want something with better fuel economy, take a look at that NX 350H. That's the hybrid version that I covered in depth last year. I'll link that above with some kind of YouTube magic. Some things that set the F Sport apart from the other trim levels are the gloss black mesh grille up front, these black mirror caps, the black window surrounds or dark window surrounds, the black roof rails, black bumper, and these big 20-inch gloss black wheels. The rest of the trims get you 18s, but either way, they are wrapped in all-season run flats. And surprisingly, the F Sport is the only one that gets the body-colored fenders. Those mirrors I mentioned will tilt when you go in reverse. The driver's side is auto-dimming. There's blind spot monitoring in here, and they will fold when you lock up the car. This one also has a puddle light option on it. It spells out the word Lexus, interestingly. Usually it's just a logo. And your keyless entry is from both the front and the back door handles. This particular car has the triple LEDs option on it, which come with cornering as well as the little headlight washers. I always recommend getting the cornering lights. I really like those for nighttime visibility. These are excellent at night. Your standard lights are going to be by LEDs. These parking sensors across the front are standard, but this little camera here is part of the Pano View Monitor, which is an additional charge. The power liftgate I mentioned is standard, but the kick to open is not. Wow, that worked on the first try. That never works on the first try. And you can even get a puddle light back here. I've never seen a puddle light on the rear tailgate, but you can option that if you want it. This opens up into 22.7 cubic feet of space. I know it's a weird way to measure, but it's the easiest way to compare across different cars. This is a smaller crossover, so that is not a ton of space compared to a lot of the competition. Like an RDX is going to have more, but an RDX is a slightly bigger car. And we do have a 12 volt back here. There is some space underneath here as well, so that's probably not included in your 22.7 cubic feet, so it is actually a little bit more than what the numbers may advertise, but that extra space comes at the cost of the spare. There is no spare back here since we are on run flats. Boo, run flats. Now, whether or not you have the kick to open, you can still use the key fob here to open and close the tailgate. You can also remote start your car from the key fob by triple tapping the lock button and holding it down on that third tap. But note that you do have to have a Remote Connect subscription in order for that to work. If you have that subscription, you can also go into your phone, into the app, and remote start your car there. But in order for it to work on the key fob, just note that you do have to have an active subscription. The inside is pretty tight as well, but if you're not on the super tall side, if you're maybe 6 feet is probably about the max where you would fit back here and in front of yourself. I'm only 5'7", so I have a decent amount of space. I fit forward facing seats back here okay. Rear facing seats are going to be a little bit on the tight side. You do have vents back here, USBs, 12 volt, and you've got some cup holders in here. Pretty nice place to be. You can get these back seats heated as well, just not in the F Sport trim. The things that set the F Sport interior apart are the steering wheel design, the aluminum pedals, the scuff plates, the headliner, the more aggressive seats. Note that the steering wheel here is heated, as are the seats, but you do have to pay extra if you want the ventilated seats. I'm a big fan of the heavy bolstering on these seats. I find them to be quite a bit more comfortable than the regular seats. Of course, your mileage will vary depending on your size and shape. Ventilated seats aren't the only option on this particular interior. We've also got the big pano sunroof, got the digital mirror, the 14-inch Jumbotron that replaces the 10-incher, and it's got ambient themes added, wireless charger down here, and the memory seats are also an option. 17 speaker Mark Levinson sound system. I actually haven't been super impressed with this sound system. The 10 speaker is pretty decent as well, so I would probably just stick with that base 10 speaker sound system. Things that are standard, at least in the F Sport, are this clear heads-up display. You can adjust the information in there as well as the positioning. The latest Lexus infotainment system, which is clean and simple to use, and I love that they have shortcut menus in here that get that in Lexus, but you don't get that in Toyota. I don't love that the HVAC is buried in here, as are your heated and ventilated seats, but at least those options are always available and accessible here at the bottom. And you have a simple digital gauge cluster with just a handful of things that you can cycle through, and the heads-up display and the gauge cluster are controlled by these touch-sensitive buttons on the steering wheel. Now, anytime I see touch-sensitive controls, I think, well, this could probably be simple. I don't think that the menus buried inside of the touch controls are necessary. And anytime you can brush against something and pop a menu up, it could get a little bit distracting. It's not egregious here. It is perfectly usable. It's not as bad as like Mercedes with their touch sensitive controls. Once you get used to the system, it's okay. I just kind of wish that they would have picked a different way to handle it. What I am a fan of is the way they do the door handles here. It's just a little button that you push to open the door. It seems like it's not really that big of a deal, but it just makes so much sense to push a button as you push a door outward versus pulling a handle in while you push a door outward. When it comes to the driving experience, nimble crossover F Sport handling is a bit of an aspirational name, other than the word crossover maybe. But I mean, with the short wheelbase, the big wheels, the sport tuned suspension, it actually does handle pretty decently well here. And when you put your foot into it, it's plenty quick. It can get out of its own way pretty well. But the F Sport part of it does come at a bit of a cost. The 20-inch wheels and the sport tuned suspension are a bit at odds with what Lexus does best, which is smooth, comfortable rides. I've said in the past that Lexus doesn't know how to make a harsh ride, and unfortunately, I don't think I'll be saying that again. It's still quite comfortable on the highway when you're just cruising around, but if your side roads are not very well maintained like the ones around me, it can get pretty rough. We're also running on run flats here, which I'm sure isn't helping anything, but the hybrid I was in last year was also on run flats, and it rode a lot better than this. Outside of the ride quality on rough roads, which thankfully, as I mentioned, is better in the other variants of the NX, the driving experience is quite pleasant. The seats are comfortable, the visibility is good, and so is the power. Power comes on smoothly in most situations, but if you need to, say, merge onto the highway from a stop sign in a terribly designed area in Connecticut, it does open up and it'll get you there plenty quickly. You'll have no issues. 317 pound-feet of torque is no joke. And when you just want to cruise, the adaptive cruise control and the lane tracing work very well together. That adaptive cruise will work all the way down to stop and go traffic. Blind spot monitoring and rear cross traffic alert are things that I always like to mention. Those are going to be standard, but the front cross traffic alert is an additional charge. Generally speaking, everything has pretty much stayed out of my way, which is what you want. You want it to be out of the way when you don't need it, and it only shows itself when you are in a situation where you actually need some of those safety features and alerts. There's no driver monitor system in this one where it watches your face and your eyes, but it does have proactive drive assist. I have had that turned off this week. That is one feature that I really don't like. I find it a little bit too intrusive. Luckily, you can turn all those features on and off through your infotainment here, and those settings are sticky, so they will stay with you when you turn the car off and back on again. The Lexus NX is great when it comes to comfort and luxury, but unfortunately the F Sport part of it does take away from some of that comfort. Let's face it, you're not buying the NX for its handling characteristics. Your primary concern is probably that comfort portion. And while this F Sport starts at 50 grand, all the options I've mentioned throughout the video push this one up to about 58 grand. If it were me personally, I would opt for that NX 350H, the hybrid version that I was in last year, but in luxury trim, where you get pretty much all of the features that you see here but you get the smaller wheels, a little bit better ride quality. You don't get the seats, which is a shame, and you don't get the extra driving modes, but those aren't really super necessary. But outside of that, you get really pretty much all of the luxury features you see here, and you get that whole package for less. So that's really where I would go, is that NX 350h luxury trim. Let me know which NX you would pick down in the comments, or if you would go elsewhere. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.